Good morning and welcome back to the Robert Brunson Show starring Chad Grier.
It gets better every week.
I kind of like that. It has a nice ring to it.
It does.
Anyway, Coach, big win for the team on Friday night against St. John's out on Johns Island. The Islanders were a little bit overmatched. 58-0, I think, was the final score. Your general thoughts on that performance?
Well, proud of our guys. I mean, winning football games is not easy, and we talk about that a lot. I mean, it's you only get, in our case, because the Hurricane 9 guaranteed chances to play, and as hard as the guys work from November last year all the way through winter, spring, summer, to only have those 9 opportunities, you don't ever want to take one for granted. So really happy with the outcome. Obviously, candidly, we didn't play real well. Man, we graded out probably the lowest we've graded all year. That being said, that's actually a positive thing to me. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to play our best football game in September. We want to play our best game in December. So, the fact that we can make mistakes and still come out on top, that's a good sign.
I noticed you threw the ball a lot more than usual. Keegan had very few carries over the course of the game. Meanwhile, Sean Cooney threw for 5 touchdowns, 295 yards, I think it was. Did you see something in their defense that led you to want to throw the ball, or what was your thinking there?
Well, we try to, whatever we think is available to us, we want to take advantage of. So we saw some things we felt like that we could do in the passing game, and wanted to establish that early. And then as that game, unfolded, you kind of felt like, well, I mean, if we're going to continue to do this, there's a point where it's not very cool to continue to throw the football. So we stayed with it, thinking we'd run the ball, probably exclusively in the second half. In kind of that situation, what our typical MO is that if we're in a situation at halftime where the game's in control, we'll play our starters one series in the third quarter. Just start the second half off in the right way and make sure our guys are focused and engaged. And then after that, it's we try to make sure everybody that's there gets an opportunity to play. So that worked out. With that, we ran the clock the whole second half, so we didn't get quite as many opportunities for those guys as you ideally would like, but it was the right thing to do, running the clock. I'm a big fan of Josh and what he's doing over there. Got to speak with his dad even before the game, which I think is very cool. His dad helps with the program. His wife was doing the film for him. I mean, it's just their family's very committed to their success, and he's building a program. And last year, they lost a lot of seniors that were very good players. They were very young this year. I mean, he's it's just definitely not the same talent level that we've seen from St. John's the last couple of years. So, but I tell you what, they competed, and to his credit, those kids, they never laid down all the way through the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of getting in some, playing a lot of different people in that game, I noticed Mark Jalema had a touchdown.
He did. That's not something we do lightly. He's actually practiced that for the last several weeks. Mark he's one of our best athletes, one of our strongest players. He runs really well. He's just been had a hamstring thing that's been bothering him since the spring. He's finally getting healthy, but in practice when he gets some opportunities to carry the ball, our guys don't want to deal with him. So it was good to see him get one touch and turn that into a touchdown.
And a lot of the JV players dressed out for the game, and a lot of them got some good playing time in the second half.
Great, they all got to get in the game, but they didn't have a game this week, so we have to deal with the 4-quarter rule. We try to make dressing out for varsity games something they earn, and these kids have earned it. They earned the right to get a chance to compete when they got a chance on Friday night. They all stepped up and did really well. I was very happy with the way those guys competed.
And the JV team has a game this week, North Myrtle Beach.
North Myrtle Beach. So again, big step up in class, a very successful program. Another pretty decent road trip up to North Myrtle Beach. But great opportunity. Really appreciate those guys hosting us, and good opportunity for our kids to continue to get better and develop and build our program.
Very good. Looking forward to this coming Friday. We are going to have a home game. It's going to be at Park West.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll be hosting Legion Collegiate Academy out of Rock Hill, which is another charter school similar to Gray Collegiate and Oceanside, operated by Pinnacle, but it's their first year in existence.
Yeah, first year, and it's to us, the people that were here, they can appreciate they're having them a McClellanville year. They're in a temporary building. Straight Heron is their AD and football coach, and Straight. If you were going to build a Mount Rushmore of high school football coaches in South Carolina, you probably have to consider their staff. Straight, Bobby Carroll, Moose Wallace. Those are three of the best to ever do it in South Carolina. They've won more games than you can shake a stick at, and have coached some of the best players ever to play in our state. So they're going to be very well prepared, but they're also dealing with they've come from big programs, big schools, and I'm sure it's a huge adjustment for them trying to figure out how to survive in the charter school world without facilities and a permanent home and all the funding that provides all those things for you when you get there day one. But I know this, but they've only played 2 games. They lost a very hard-fought game to a very good team, Metrolina, out of Charlotte, that I'm very familiar with. And that game was tight down in the fourth quarter, and that's their very first ever game. And then they had a game 2 weeks ago. They won 62 to nothing. They've got some kids that can play. And again, they're exceptionally well coached.
So they've only had 2 games?
They've had 2 games canceled. They lost the game to the Hurricane. They were going to play down here. Then they lost the game last week. They're supposed to play Battery Creek from down around, I guess, the Hilton Head area. And Battery Creek called them, so they didn't have enough to play. So they canceled the game on them. So, I hate that for Straight and Bobby and those guys. But I think they should be well rested. And I'm certainly very motivated to have an opportunity to play us. So we better have our act together on Friday night.
Will you have an opportunity to see film on them?
Yeah, we got film. So our coaches meet. We come in Saturday mornings, and we meet most all day Saturday. So, we always joke we leave here, whatever it is, around midnight on Friday. So we'll see in a few hours. We get back together first thing the next morning. But it goes back to our staff and how committed they are, and we have a pretty detailed script that we run through to review the Friday night game and prepare for next week's game, and then work on our own from home on Sundays as a rule. Last night was about 10 o'clock. Robin just hit me up about our practice script today, so I'd gone in and made some adjustments, and he'd already seen them. So our guys work hard. I think it's no accident that our kids are as prepared as they are. Our staff does a really, really good job.
Yeah, and Coach Jackson's defense really shined against St. John's. I should have pointed that out. Less than 100 yards in total offense for the Islanders in that game. Very few rushing yards.
Right.
So the defense looked really good in that game.
He's doing a tremendous job, and I try to bring this up about every week. I think the most underrated, underappreciated aspect of football, high school football, is the assistant coaches, staff continuity, and those guys' ability to be effective teachers of the game, of technique, and then from a coordinator perspective to be able to strategize and scheme. When you see a successful high school program, they usually have those kind of factors in place, and we certainly have it here, and very fortunate to have our whole staff. We have a really talented, committed staff, but Coach Jackson certainly does a great job with defense.
And Coach Benton's kickers are sure looking good. Well, kicker, I should say, Chris Haynes. Well,
played
he doesn't coach the kickoff team, is that right?
He coaches the kicker, though. So, he works exclusively with our kickers. Basically, my role with the kickers is I try to distract them and play head games with them during practice.
Right.
But he coaches them up, and they do a great job. McKinley hit 3 more into the end zone for touchbacks, tying school record originally set by Sergio Gonzalez that Spencer tied earlier this year, so he tied it again. Was hoping to get the 4th one in there to get him exclusive rights to that record. Chris, again, perfect on his extra points, hit another field goal. And then Ben Plush actually got to come in and kick the last extra point. And very cool for Ben to be able to come in. Just twice he's come in late in the game off the bench, kind of cold, but walks in very coolly, nails the extra point. So kicking game is as solid as it's ever been. It's the best I've ever had. And Jackson and our staff are doing a good job with our coverage units. That's a huge part of the game. We emphasize special teams as a priority. Everybody says they do. We actually put a lot of time and effort into preparing special teams each week, and I think that's been showing.
It really shows. I noticed that Spencer McKinley had something like 568 yards of kickoffs in that game. It really was quite a show.
The good news is, if we're getting a lot of kickoffs, that means we're scoring a lot of points.
That's true.
And Coach Benton was upset with me for a little bit for the Gray game. We didn't want to kick it to 4 or 17, so we were hurting Spencer's average by all the little creative kicks we were doing. But he got a chance to make up for it this past week.
Well, it was entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah.
And just to point out on that field goal that Chris hit. It was 32-yarder with plenty of room to spare.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
that thing was still going. He's doing a great
How
job.
far does he kick them in practice?
He's out near the 50-yard mark, I think. I mean, we're those guys like to push it back. I always give them a chance when we get later in the week and we're doing our kind of script rehearsal. Where do you want it? Put it where you want it. And I think last week he had it around 49 and nailed it pretty easily. And usually where we're kicking on Thursdays is into the wind and the way the breeze works the practice field. So he's hitting it pretty strong right now. Our kicking game really is in good shape. Zach Champagne, we had the one miscue, but he really does a good job of long snapping, and that's very underappreciated. The only time you ever notice a snapper is if one goes awry,
right.
But he's done a really good job snapping. Walker Rue had a great game holding. Another one of those things you don't really pay attention to, but watching the film, he did a great job snagging some balls, getting them down clean, and letting Chris just do his thing. So, a lot of good things working together on the special teams units.
The one special team unit that we really haven't seen much of, fortunately, is the punting team.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of. We didn't really have a punter. Keegan Williams is our punter. Although he nailed a 50-yarder in pregame. That was unbelievable. I mean, I was impressed. I said, we're not going to do that, I hope, but if you got to do it, that was the way to kick it. Yeah,
well, I don't know, how you feel about rankings, but I do notice that on Max Preps, Oceanside is now ranked number 3 in AA, ahead of such teams as Barnwell and Timberland.
We're not ahead of Timberland until we beat them. I mean, those guys. I mean, they're the standard bearer down here. It's great to be thought of that way, and really not being thought of. Max Prep is math. It's just a formula. That's just some algorithm that they probably got some guy in a box and a calculator doing whatever he's doing, but. So great. I mean, that's awesome for our kids and for our program to feel really good about that. They should. I mean, I keep reminding them where we came from. In fact, we watched the St. John's film from 2016 a little bit Friday morning.
A totally different ball game, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind our kids where, because a lot of those kids were part of that game. I want to remember where they've come from and how far they've come. They've done every bit of it. All the credit goes to the kids for how much work they've put in and the trust they put in the program and buying into the culture. And you see the difference and you see the progression. Some of these same teams year over year, how we're getting better and heading the right direction. But it's been a fun thing to be a part of. The rankings are a great indicator, I guess, if you will. But at the end of the day, you got to win on Friday night and got to win in the playoffs.
And I notice, and this I don't have at the tip of my tongue, but the Post and Courier has rankings for low country teams. And what are we, 4th?
We were 3 last week. I haven't seen it this week. It was Fort D and then Berkeley and then us, which.
That's pretty impressive. You're ahead of some really big schools there.
No question, and great to be thought of. That is an opinion-oriented kind of deal, so great that people are thinking of us in that, along the lines of those kind of programs. We have to earn that right, and we have to earn a right to continue to be thought of in that way, and that only can happen with Friday night. You get one shot to go 1-0 this week, and our focus right now is not on polls or rankings. It's strictly on Legion.
All right, Coach. Well, good luck on Friday night. Any closing thoughts?
Well, I think you asked a question I didn't answer last night, by the way, but it made me think about professional wrestling. Abe Jacobs.
I like it when a question makes you think.
Well, it does. It made me think. Abe Jacobs was a master of a hold that has never been broken. Do you know what that was?
The sleeper hold?
No. The Kiwi leg lock.
Well,
Abe Jacobs was from down under.
That was the next thing I was going to say.
The only problem with the Kiwi leg lock is that he was never able to really get it locked in. So even though it's inescapable, he never was able to really put the move fully on anybody. My buddy Dave Sorepka points this out to me. So the point of that is we are chasing the perfect game. We had a great win Friday night, and we didn't play perfectly. In fact, we made a lot of mistakes. We did grade out real well. But kind of like Abe Jacobs, if we ever get it locked in, we'll beat anybody.
Sounds good to me. That's the kind of wrestling talk I like to hear.
All right, you got it, man.
All right, so remember, everybody, it's a home game Friday night here at Park West. We will live stream it, but you should definitely come to the game if you can, and we'll see what we can do with Legion. Coach, see you next week.
Let's go. Let's go Sharks.